He wondered if Livia felt the same when thinking of Felix. Changing the subject, Ryan asked if Len had made progress. She replied she had, then asked if he had. Ryan sighed and admitted an idea had crossed his mind, asking if her father had ever used his power on her. Len said she didn't think so. If he had, she wouldn't be here but would have become him. Ryan suggested her father might have done something more subtle, like closing her wounds. Len asked why he was asking. Ryan reminded her that when she took her elixir, her father instantly knew, initially leading Ryan to think it was because he could sense blood and manipulate it from afar. He then proposed that her father might have left a trace of himself inside her, like a blood beacon. Ryan said her father was his cherished daughter and only reason to live, and always managed to find them when they wandered off. Len's worried expression indicated she considered it a strong possibility. Ryan asked if she thought Dynamis was after something her father left behind. Len agreed it was possible and said he would need a blood sample and the tools in the back of his car to check. Suddenly, Len asked about the knockoffs and if Ryan, who had studied elixirs, had noticed a match. Ryan explained the Carnival erased any trace of her father to prevent his return, so he had nothing to compare the knockoffs to. Len frowned and said that until now, if there was a match. Ryan sighed and asked if they could focus on the brain transfer project first, warning it was dangerous and might take more than one run to get into Dynamis' labs, and he didn't want Len to forget him again. Len said she would do what she could but admitted something was missing and wrong. Ryan asked if the tech didn't work. Len pointed at the brain scanning helmet and explained it could make a brain map and create a computer simulation to send to a host to overwrite the previous cognitive system. The closer the host's nervous system to the simulation, the better, otherwise the host brain would degrade with conflicting memories and confused neurons. Ryan asked if sending her memories to her past self would avoid problems. Len said it should be fine, maybe causing a harmless concussion or nothing, and might work wirelessly when finished. Ryan asked where the catch was. Len said wireless sending of memories back in time required more power than any natural energy source could provide. Ryan quickly guessed violet flux. Len agreed and said they could only send signals or the brain map back in time if they hooked the chronoradio to Vulcan's armor. Ryan immediately noticed a problem. In the previous run, the chronoradio was destroyed, and Jasmine and he created the armor afterward, yet they still received future recordings. Len nodded slowly and said she didn't think she sent the chronoradio messages, or at least not the previous her. It could have been a future her. Ryan replied that wasn't how time worked unless he had been wrong, since only two time periods could exist through his save point, and all messages revolved around their interactions during the previous loop. Len asked who then sent the messages. Ryan tried to remember the end of the previous run and his trip to the Purple World, the visions he had seen, and the colossal entity he briefly contacted near the end, recalling the ultimate ones were compassionate though narrow-minded. The chronoradio message appeared when Ryan seriously considered giving up. He realized it wasn't who but what sent the messages. Ryan looked at Eugene Henry as things fell into place. The cat had somehow gained powers across time, deliberately led Livia to him, and appeared in the Kami cave when Len considered studying violet flux for her experiment. Too many coincidences occurred at once. Ryan accused Eugene Henry of not teleporting at random but being teleported by something else, something showing them the way and telling them they could succeed if they worked hard enough. The cat meowed in response. Len said Ryan was talking to a cat. Ryan defended himself, reminding her of what he told her about what he saw in the Purple World. She connected the dots and asked if he thought the pyramid thing was helping them. Ryan nodded, leaving Eugene Henry to his cleaning, and said he was starting to wonder if the visions, chronoradio signals, and Eugene Henry's teleportations were not random but attempts at communication. Len said it sounded far-fetched and asked why, if it was as powerful as he thought, it did so little, only teleporting a cat, and why it would even care. Ryan admitted he didn't know and that it was just a theory but found the strange coincidences oddly convenient. He was convinced the people he saw in his vision were either the alchemist or connected to them. Len asked if he saw a base in Antarctica and if he could identify where exactly. Ryan said maybe he had only seen the night sky, not enough to pinpoint the exact position but enough to narrow it down. She suggested visiting that base with the submarine after they finished the rest of their work. Ryan agreed he better work on that heist then. Since Len kept the car and they weren't married, Ryan used a bathysphere to reach the surface and then called a taxi to get to his destination. Ryan wondered aloud if this was karma for leaving his car to die as he stepped out of the taxi in front of a Dynamis-owned hospital, the same one where Psyshock's victims had been brought during the courier's first Il Migli or loop. Private security guarded the building, but no journalists waited at the entrance, suggesting either strict confidentiality or media control by Dynamis. As Ryan approached the entrance, he spotted a familiar face leaving the hospital and climbing into the back of a Mercedes-Benz, a young teenager with short brown hair, blue eyes, and a heart-shaped face, Narcinia. Her chauffeur, Mortimer, was recognized by Ryan out of costume and wearing sunglasses. Narcinia appeared upset, indicating her meeting with her brother had not gone well. The guards allowed Ryan inside after a quick security check, where he found Wardrobe and the Panda waiting in the entrance hall. Wardrobe was speaking with an unknown woman, while the Panda texted on his phone with tears in his eyes. They had brought chocolate and flowers bearing Felix's name. Wardrobe greeted Ryan warmly, but the Panda remained absorbed in his phone. Ryan waved at Wardrobe before glancing at the other woman, who was in her early 20s with shoulder-length brown hair and striking amber eyes, likely British. Unlike Wardrobe's feminine attire, she wore a stylish gray corporate suit. The woman introduced herself as Nora Moore and mentioned that Wardrobe had spoken a lot about Ryan. Wardrobe smiled and identified Nora as his girlfriend, the architect. Ryan took Nora's hand and kissed it in a gentlemanly manner, causing her to blush, while he frowned at Wardrobe for not having a costume. Wardrobe admitted trying but failing to get Nora to wear a costume. Nora explained she was not a superhero but an independent contractor and urban planner with a genius power specialized in cities and architecture. Wardrobe praised her abilities enthusiastically. Nora showed Ryan her tablet displaying advanced plans for arcology, like self-sustaining towns, a flying city, and an underground bunker settlement. Ryan asked if she could design any kind of city and noted her efficient use of limited resources. He suggested moving the generators closer to the water recycling system for shorter heating circuits. Nora smiled and asked if Ryan was a genius too. Wardrobe praised Ryan's intelligence, mentioning his impressive car and weapons collection. Ryan replied that his Plymouth Fury was currently in a garage and inquired if Nora planned to resettle areas destroyed by the Genome Wars, as some designs seemed out of place otherwise. Nora confirmed many projects had been scrapped by the previous administration, but the new one was more open-minded, allowing her to design beyond fortress cities in Sicily. Ryan asked if she had ever wanted to build an underwater metropolis, mentioning Len, a genius specialized in sea-based technology with Marxist-Leninist views. Nora expressed interest in oceanic settlements and meeting Len, though outside of Dynamis due to political differences. She suggested discussing genius technology further another time, complimenting Ryan's knowledge. Ryan asked if Nora had designed the Dynamis HQ and Optimates Tower, recognizing her style. She confirmed and modestly downplayed her early work. Ryan apologized for shamelessly flirting with Wardrobe before knowing about Nora, which flustered Wardrobe but amused Nora, who said she liked the bunny costume Ryan made for Wardrobe. Wardrobe lamented their exclusive contract and civil union, but Nora offered her blessing if they broke up. Wardrobe joked about dating both Ryan and Nora simultaneously, while Nora teased Ryan about sending Wardrobe an application. Wardrobe then playfully declared that if not with Nora, she would wear Ryan's bunny costume and force him into a Hugh Hefner outfit for intimate moments. Ryan thanked them, appreciating their cultured and gentle friendship, and planned to hang out during his perfect run. Wardrobe excitedly showed Ryan a new costume designed for him, inspired by a dark and edgy aesthetic with a silver lining on the chest symbolizing a search for redemption. Ryan asked if it was made of cashmere, and Wardrobe confirmed only the hidden shirt beneath was cashmere, while the jacket was guanaco. Ryan admired the design and then noticed the Panda still seated, tears in his eyes. When Ryan addressed him, the Panda apologized, showing his phone displaying a meme website called Pandamania, featuring an image of himself with a cape and lightning hammer, labeled The Panda's True Power. The Panda explained it was a meme site where he had memes. Nora added that the Panda was a hit on Dynanet and social networks, with his merchandise selling incredibly well, almost matching all other new recruits combined. Ryan observed why Dynanet users adored portraying the Panda as an unstoppable badass, photoshopping him into action movie scenes with captions like, "The Panda is the key to everything," and "Panda OP, please nerf." The Panda admitted he was famous and wiped away a tear, acknowledging that everyone thought he was amazing and strong. Wardrobe smiled and patted the Panda on the shoulder, praising his bravery in fighting the meta gang and how he had stolen everyone's spotlight. Ryan, imitating a wise elder's voice, told the Panda that this fame was the first step toward ascension and that many roadblocks awaited him. The Panda thanked Ryan, calling him a friend, and they shared a tight hug. Wardrobe joined them, while her girlfriend watched with amusement. A nurse soon arrived, announcing that Mr. Varon would receive them now. As the group walked through the hospital's hallway, guided by the Dynamis nurse, Ryan asked Nora about the high security lab's reinforcements. Nora explained that the tinted glass windows were just for show, with separate energy generators powering the floor independently, an alarm system detecting intruders, and only one entrance through an elevator and blast door. Ryan questioned the lack of an emergency exit, and Nora replied that Mr. Minata wanted the place to be secure, not safe, as they experimented with dangerous creatures and wanted wanted to prevent any chance of escape. Wardrobe commented on the new Cyber Tyranno design, especially the holographic goggles, calling them classy. The Panda proudly mentioned that people had asked them to participate in the new tournament's opening match, Panda versus Velociraptors. Nora dismissed the tournament as a waste of resources better spent on hospitals, while Ryan admitted he was torn, acknowledging dinosaurs' mass appeal but questioning whether the labs could survive a building explosion. Nora confirmed they would and questioned why terrorists would be too lazy to use the stairs. Ryan insisted it was hypothetical and appreciated the information. The nurse led them to a white hospital room, which Ryan called Felix's litter. Felix looked much better than a few days ago after being stabbed by acid rain, though he still needed to stay in bed with bandages around his chest and wore white hospital clothes instead of his usual suit and mask. Ryan noted Felix's adorable visage but recalled Fortuna's comment about Venus using her power for aesthetic surgery, wondering if Felix's perfect features were altered. Felix greeted them, unsurprised by Nora's presence, likely introduced by Wardrobe before. Wardrobe immediately placed chocolates and flowers on Felix's lap, asking if he had been treated well. The Dynamis nurse confirmed and left, reminding them not to make too much noise. Felix scratched the back of his head, confused, saying he thought he shared a room with the glass guy. Ryan corrected him, calling the hero translucent or semi-transparent for friends. Felix explained that the shroud had been transferred to intensive care after shrapnel hit his vital organs and was placed in an artificial coma. Ryan, who had grown to appreciate the transparent hero despite past conflicts, felt bothered by this. Wardrobe asked if the shroud would survive, but Felix shook his head, unable to answer, and blamed himself for not thinking of a better persona. Nora reassured Wardrobe that it was a heat of battle mistake and no one would blame her. Felix pointed out that Wardrobe had saved his life with her nurse cosplay, though she appeared unconvinced and mentioned researching other personas that could have saved both of them, wishing white mages were public domain. Ryan asked Wardrobe if it was her first time in such a situation, and she nodded. He told her nobody could blame her for not being perfect on her first try and that practice makes perfect, but his words seemed to worsen her mood. She said she didn't want to practice watching people die, and Nora comforted her with a hand on her shoulder. Ryan changed the subject, asking Felix when he would be discharged. Felix said tomorrow but revealed he wouldn't stay with Il Miglior. He was joining the Carnival. Wardrobe reacted with surprise, lamenting that Quick Save the Pandas had only one successful outing and now they were all leaving, comparing it to breaking up after a hit song. The Panda suggested forming a duo called Yin and Yang to salvage the brand. Ryan warned Felix that if he changed his hero name to Circus Lion, he would disown him. Felix ignored the jab and seemed uncomfortable around Ryan, signaling something had changed. Wardrobe asked if it was about the costume and whether Enrique wouldn't let Felix join the pro league unless he changed his outfit. Felix smirked and said wearing what he wanted was just a bonus. He felt more aligned with the Carnival's values than Il Miglior's, as too much red tape hindered doing what was right. Ryan wasn't surprised but wondered how Lightning Dad would react, recalling how Mob Zeus had almost murdered his godson for joining Dynamis. He noted that Lucky Girl and Livia had been strangely silent lately, neither sending messages, sensing a storm brewing. Wardrobe expressed sadness about the changes, lamenting what the four of them could have accomplished. Ryan argued they could still team up occasionally with crossover events until their fans grew tired of it, but Wardrobe replied that it wasn't the same and that she really liked hanging out with all of them. Nora suggested that Ryan could always form his own group and mentioned Enrique might be open to the idea. Ryan declined, saying he didn't plan to stay in New Rome for long. Felix finally paid attention and asked where Ryan would go. Ryan replied that he would go wherever life carried him. Ryan had no clear plan after achieving his perfect run for New Rome. He might stay with Len and the children, but as a restless time traveler, he was likely to return to the road, always seeking new adventures. He did not feel at home anywhere. The Panda, still in human form but with a bear-like expression, asked if Ryan was leaving him alone. Ryan told him that his training was complete and that life would now be his teacher. The Panda struggled not to cry but said he understood. Wardrobe commented on Ryan's lone cowboy energy and expressed concern about the loneliness of his existence, urging him to stay even if Dynamis didn't want him anymore. Ryan looked at her with warmth and she offered a BFF bond, which he accepted. Nora checked the time and told Ryan he would be late for a meeting. Ryan asked if something was planned. Wardrobe explained that Wyvern wanted every Il Miglior member to attend a big meeting, but it was members only. She had argued for Ryan's presence, but the new CEO refused. They promised to update him afterward. Ryan decided he would change the kitten's litter alone. Nora invited him to meet the next day at her place, small but comfortable, and suggested he could introduce her to the underwater specialist he had mentioned. Ryan chuckled, doubting she would leave the commie cave but said he would try to convince her. Wardrobe joked joked about retrieving a Karl Marx costume and then apologized to Felix for the short visit before leaving with her girlfriend, leaving Ryan alone with the young superhero. Ryan asked Felix if Dynamis and the Carnival were planning to attack the Augusti, noting the timing of the meeting just 2 days after the Rusttown raid and the eagerness of Alphonse Manata and Hargraves to strike while the iron was hot. Felix asked if Ryan wanted to know or if Livia was asking through him. Ryan admitted he would find out soon anyway and was just making conversation, noting he had seen Narcinia leaving the place. Felix said he made an exception for Narcinia, who deserved to know the truth. He had told her everything about how Augustus murdered her parents and arranged her adoption to exploit her powers for drug production, a revelation that sickened him. Ryan asked if Narcinia believed him, noting she had no memories of her birth parents. Felix replied that Bacchus likely shattered her mind when she was young, using his power to psychically torture people into madness or gaslight them into false beliefs. Ryan noted this information mentally for when he would later blow up the Bliss factory. Felix said that if Ryan truly joined the Carnival, he would have the opportunity to contribute to the family feud. Felix glared at Ryan, accusing him of knowing about Livia and mentioning that Blackthorn told him Ryan had met with her and Fortuna. Ryan explained that it was part of a master plan to get Livia off his back. Felix accused Ryan of having been involved with his sister and ex, implying he had to involve the whole family. Ryan asked if Felix's parents were in an open marriage. Felix asked if Ryan was in bed with them, the Augusti. Ryan replied ambiguously, admitting he had slept with Jasmine in a previous loop but swore he hadn't touched Felix's sister, though he acknowledged her power made things complicated and that she was not as bad as he had thought. Felix told Ryan to stop talking about his sister, explaining that Livia was too careful to approach someone outside the hierarchy, even with Fortuna around. He added that Ryan knew Fortuna was his sister and that he had dated Livia, information only available among the Augusti and a few people at Dynamis. Blackthorn swore Ryan had never talked about him before. Ryan guessed Felix suspected he had obtained this information from the Augusti. Felix asked where else he would have gotten it and said he didn't understand Ryan. Ryan asked if he would have helped Translucent and Sunshine if he worked with Augustus and noted the chocolates wardrobe had left for Felix, suspecting they would go uneaten. He said he couldn't help it if everyone wanted a piece of him. Felix sneered, asking if Ryan was neither friend nor enemy of Augustus but just a mercenary at heart who organized the Meta gang's downfall for pay. Ryan denied being paid and explained he destroyed Hannafat Lecter's group because they threatened friends of his, aiming to protect the people he cared about. Felix said that was Livia's excuse, to protect her family no matter what. Ryan told Felix that Livia still loved him. Felix looked away and said he never did, not like that. Ryan asked what he meant. Felix admitted their parents had pushed them into their relationship, arranged since childhood when their families were best friends and part of the Camorra. He cared for Livia as a friend but never loved her or was the Prince Charming she wanted. Ryan mentioned that Livia had told him about Felix's secret hideout and asked if he had been misleading her. Felix said he wasn't lying but had tried to make it work, explaining that one cannot force oneself to love someone. Ryan sympathized with Felix but pitted Livia most of all, seeing parallels with his own relationship with Len, though he hoped he and Shorty might end up on speaking terms. He thought Livia and Felix's situation was a tragedy waiting to happen. Felix said that Livia was close to Ryan and had told him about the hideout and about Felix, which was how Ryan knew. He insisted Ryan was not Augustus' friend but Livia's. Ryan replied that he wouldn't go that far, noting they had threatened to kill each other more than once. Felix told Ryan that Blackthorn had mentioned they were pretty friendly to each other and asked what Livia was to him. Ryan hesitated, then explained that Livia reminded him of someone else he had tried to free from a monster but had failed, and he didn't want Livia to suffer the same fate. Adam Cat remained silent for a moment before warning Ryan that he wouldn't save Livia from her father. Felix agreed, saying Augustus' hold over her was too strong and the only way was to destroy Augustus, though she would hate whoever did it, just like Len and Bloodstream. Ryan asked if that was Felix's plan, mentioning Dynamis and the Carnival's intent to attack Augustus and Lightning But's likely reaction. Felix said he didn't care and had made peace with the possibility. Ryan acknowledged that with Sunshine's help, the Monada might have the firepower to take down the Augusti, but the real problem was Mob Zeus himself. Felix said Dynamis had a weapon that might put him out of commission, though his own father didn't believe in it. Felix insisted someone had to take a stand or things would never change, and people would keep dying. As Ryan prepared to argue further, his phone rang. Seeing it was Livia, he took the call despite Felix's scoff and warning not to answer. Livia's frantic voice asked if Felix was with him and urged them to run, to get out of New Rome immediately. Ryan protested, but Livia insisted that if they didn't leave, her father would have Felix killed because of his association with the Carnival and what he had told Narcinia. She said she was trying to prevent it, but the situation was worsening, and she needed their help. When Ryan asked if he should bring Felix to Dynamis, Livia said no, explaining that Felix wouldn't be safe anywhere in New Rome because her father was preparing for war with the Monada. Ryan realized Lightning but had learned of Sunshine's alliance with Dynamis or their upcoming attack, and that the living sun and Augustus would soon settle their rivalry. Ryan asked who was after Felix and why he couldn't survive. Livia revealed that Aunt Pluto was pursuing him, explaining she could mark people with a curse that brought them closer to death the nearer she got. She warned Ryan that Pluto would be on her way soon. Ryan noticed Adam Cat's resigned demeanor, as if he expected his death. Ryan considered leaving him behind since Pluto might be one of the few who could kill him permanently, and they were making progress breaking his curse. But that would mean abandoning a teammate to die. Ryan told Felix that Livia had claimed him first on her list of people she wished to protect, so he hadn't mentioned Felix's name. He ordered Felix to pack, saying they were leaving. Felix refused to run or hide, but Ryan told him that death was painful and lonely, not just for him but for everyone who cared about him, and asked how his sisters and friends would feel, especially Fortuna once Pluto brought Felix's head. Felix fell silent, seeming to realize the truth. Ryan told Livia they were leaving and asked how much time they had. She said not much but would try to give as much as possible and thanked Ryan, promising she wouldn't forget his help.